Welcome to Coffee and a Weather Map with Jeff. I'm Jeff, and I have my coffee with me. I've had my coffee with me the last couple of days. I just don't usually drink it a lot while I am talking on here. Welcome to Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, and we're going to jump into the weather going on. And as I have been doing the last couple of days, we are going to go and look at the upper air pattern. 500 millibars to be exact with that part of it, since it's the main steering current roughly in meteorology. You can see a area of fast winds up to the north of in Canada there, southern Canada, across the upper Great Lakes into New England. That's the jet streak we've been watching, where the best uplift on the south side of those winds, and the back end of it, which is somewhere right now. That whole uplift area would probably be roughly go from about northern Minnesota across Lake Superior. In that general area is where we expect it. Now, with all that, there have been a fair amount of clouds, so we haven't had a lot of instability. And as we'll see, the front is a little bit too far south to help to get any real severe weather going here, but it is helping for rain issues, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Otherwise, we got a big area of high pressure over the southeastern United States, and we take a look at the advisories. You'll see that the heat advisories and heat warnings are primarily in the southeastern part of the United States, or at least anything south and east of Michigan and New York. We still have some areas, the Philadelphia area and areas along the Atlantic coast, which will still have excessive heat warnings. All right, if we look at what's going on here on the upper air, here's from the HRRR, the HRRR, the rapid refresh model from this morning. Let's see here if the 10Z1 is all in. The 11Z1 is not quite in, so we'll go back and jump into the 10Z. All right, so if we look at where it started at 10Z, which was 6 a.m. Eastern time, it's still the same basic premise that the RAP had on there. And we kind of advance in time. You can see the low that's out in the west is starting to lift and get into the flow, and as it does that, the high over in the east is beginning to go a little bit south and kind of spread out, which is kind of the idea of what's going to happen over the next several days before it kind of moves on. And you can see a little bit of ridging there in the west, just north of the Dakotas, and that is as we set up into the next pattern. But for the most part, the next couple of days, we are going to see or at least the next day and a half, 2 days, we'll see kind of what's known as a zonal pattern, which is a fast flow from west to east across the area before it starts to get a couple more waves involved in it. As I was mentioning earlier, the front is off to the south. So here's the 5 a.m. Eastern time surface analysis from the Weather Prediction Center in Washington. The main front is down to the south there along the Michigan border. For those people who are wondering, in northern Michigan, otherwise it stretches pretty much east to northeast up into New England. And then west, it goes across Iowa and then through Nebraska and into Wyoming. We'll take a look here on the satellite in a second, but that is an interesting area because the moisture that's coming up out of Mexico, the monsoonal moisture that is, into New Mexico, hits the front, and then it kind of shoves everything off to the east. And that will be our main issues here for the day. Just to give you an update here on what's going on, as well as the advisories. You can see some of that rain that's in the Dakotas and Minnesota. That's all affected around where that warm front is. And then you see the flood watches There's a little bit of a flood watch that's down in the in Wyoming, or I'm sorry, Colorado and Nebraska. But then the real big one is in New Mexico, and that all has to do with that monsoonal moisture that's coming up out of Mexico, out of the Pacific, and up into the right along the foothills of the Rockies and into the northern plains. And then with that fast flow that the upper air pattern has, as well as the front, it's creating rain along that warm front, which stretches all the way across the central portion of the United States. As I was also mentioning, the upper air pattern earlier with the heat, and you can see heat advisories that go from roughly the Mississippi River all the way back east to the Atlantic shoreline, where the excessive heat heat warnings are. But you can also kind of see where that front and low pressure system is that goes across there. If you're looking at the winds, all that moisture is streaming up this way. The front, let's see here. Well, it's a warm front, so let's change colors to red. Runs roughly around here this morning. And then there's areas of low pressure all along this that go from here and here, and there's a sag in there. So anyway, that's kind of the way it's looking. But you can see as all this moisture comes up out of the area, and we'll switch back to the colors, it comes up and in here, and it's kind of forced off along this front. And that's what we're seeing. And a lot of this moisture also is coming up out of the Gulf like this because of that high pressure right over the southeastern part of the United States. So just to kind of reiterate with what's going on, while we don't have a whole lot of clouds over Michigan right now, that will spread and change here during the day. Move that out of the way. You can kind of see the whole idea of what's going on with the clouds trying to stream off to the east, and as all those systems try to move towards the east and the Great Lakes, that moisture is going to get caught up into it, and we'll get more clouds here later on. All right, so that brings us to the forecast, and we will take a look here with what's going on. As we said this morning here at 9Z, that's what the fronts looked like at that point. We're going to use a slightly different set of maps here today. So currently at 12Z, which is 8 o'clock Eastern Time and 7 o'clock Central Time, here's what the fronts are starting to look like now, with that rain out in the northern plains and a little bit downstate of Michigan. And then the rest of it is along that monsoonal moisture. There is a little bit of rain expected along the Texas coast as well, just due to the moisture coming in off of the Gulf, as well as just the warm temperatures as well. A little bit later on today, you can see that the rain starts to spread across a good portion of the eastern United States. One thing to note is that trough of low pressure that's sitting there that runs roughly from about New York City all the way down into around Tallahassee, Florida, along the coast. That's where the Storm Prediction Center is expecting at least one of the slight risks of severe weather to be, especially as things heat up here later on during the daytime. And we'll look at those here in a bit as well. The warm front's going to continue to just kind of hang out in the south, but that low is going to track across the region or the plains and come closer to the upper Great Lakes, and that will bring the chance for heavier rain in through on Thursday, and then it should get out by Friday, and then we kind of jump to Saturday, where that whole area of heavier rain goes into New England. We're going to cool off a bit here in the upper Great Lakes. Sunday looks like we have another system coming through. Monday, again, it's just going to be kind of a hit, a couple of days where we have rain chances, and then a day where high pressure finally builds in and clears out. And it looks like we could end up doing that in the upper Great Lakes here through a good portion of going into the middle of next week. However, for the middle Texas coast, looks like you guys in South Texas, right along the coastal areas mainly, are going to see at least a chance for showers and thunderstorms almost every day going in through the middle of next week. And we'll get more into the when we go into the office graphics later. All right. So Storm Prediction Center. So here's for today, the day one outlook. We have a slight risk that's going to form along that warm front in Nebraska and Iowa. Primarily is where those areas are. Otherwise, we have marginals that go right along that warm front that we have been talking about. And as I mentioned earlier, that's the Carolinas down into the panhandle of Florida look like they have the issue at this point for a slight risk of severe weather along that trough of low pressure that's just kind of hanging out there. We'll go to the day one excessive rain outlook, and you can see that's also pretty much with what we were expecting. That monsoonal moisture, I keep saying that over and over again in New Mexico, and then that kind of goes up into that warm front, and then we've got the northern plains, upper Great Lakes, slight risk of heavy rain going on along that front, and then marginal across the rest of the region along the front into the east coast, and then also with that trough along the east coast, there is that marginal risk as well there. All right, so let's go to day two. Things seem to want to tamp down at least a bit as we keep getting enough weather across these that we're starting to lose some of the instability. The front is trying to move off to the east and south. There's still going to be at least a marginal risk in southern lower Michigan. Doesn't look like much of it's going to be up here, but we could get scattered showers and thunderstorms up this way as well. As far as the excessive heavy rain outlook, there is a chance that at least we have a slight risk for heavy rain going into northern Michigan and the upper peninsula along that front as it tries to move through during the day tomorrow, which is Thursday. And then on day three, which is Friday, I believe so. Yep. There we go. Friday, we have, the slight risk is in the Dakotas. Everywhere else is pretty much done with, still have scattered showers and thunderstorms across the area, but it won't be, there won't be a severe threat. There is a marginal there along the southern Appalachian Mountains going down into Florida as things heat up with all that moisture and the low pressure trough that's been kind of just hanging out there. As far as day three for the heavy rain outlook, that looks a lot less likely as we have marginals, which are mainly with the main low and warm front that we've been tracking across the area. There's a little bit of a marginal area up in the eastern Dakotas at the time and part of Minnesota. And it looks like the monsoonal moisture is expected to start to tamp down a bit in New Mexico as there's only a real small area of marginal risk for excessive rain expected on Friday into Saturday. Get you caught up on the tropics. I kind of mentioned yesterday that they were expecting what is now post-tropical cyclone Andrea to go from a disturbance to possibly a tropical storm. They're expecting more of a depression, I think. It briefly did reach tropical storm status yesterday, but it was in just the wrong place at the wrong time. So water temperatures were still pretty cool. When it finally got its act together, it moved into cooler water, and the shear along that was just a little too much for it to take. So it is now no longer at least a tropical storm. It's all fallen down below that. but there is still a circulation. But for the rest of the week, at least the next 7 days, we're not expecting any tropical formation in the Atlantic. So we'll get over to the office graphics. So for northern Michigan, the office in Gaylord, highs today 74 to 84. So 74 would be up to the north in the Upper Peninsula, 84 down in the rest of the forecast area in northern lower Michigan. There'll be more clouds to the south than north. As we looked at the satellite earlier, you'll see a lot of that moisture streaming in from that warm front and covering over the area. Thursday, good chance for showers. I'm not expecting a whole lot of thunder with it, but we get a little bit. Showers and thunderstorms are more likely when we have that system come back through. And then Saturday finally becomes mostly sunny. Temperatures will start to warm up and for that time period. And then over to Corpus Christi and then in South Texas, we have temperatures pretty much averaging with our ranging from what we did before, from the mid to upper 80s along the coast, Corpus Christi, Port Lavaca. So we're going 85 in Port Lavaca, 88 in Corpus Christi. There'll still be scattered showers and thunderstorms, just basically getting into the inland portions of those counties along the coastal areas. Otherwise, it'll be sunny to partly cloudy across the rest of the region, the brush country and the Rio Grande Plains, with temperatures going into the mid to upper 90s, maybe even 100 in a few places out there like Laredo. Tonight, over that area, we're still looking at pretty much mid 70s out in the brush country to around 80 along the middle Texas coast overnight. And the 5-day outlook is still mainly 90s to 100 degrees across the South Texas, with coastal plains seeing 10 to 30%, even 45% at times for thunderstorms and showers. And that concludes today's Coffee and a Weather Map with Jeff. Have a great day.